Okay. The Design Review Board hearing is commencing. Welcome to the Design Review Board hearing for April 24. Sarah, will you please call the roll?
Board Member Bauta,
Yes.
Board Member Coveney,
Here.
Board Member Weil,
Here.
Chair Pro Tem Gannon. Here. And Chair Gibbs.
Here. Ms. Gannon, would you lead the pledge? Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Well, welcome, everybody. I'll describe the procedure and then we'll proceed. The procedure will be as follows. First, there will be public communications. Any member of the public can address the board on items not agendized, but in the purview of the Design Review Board. Comments will be limited to a maximum of 2 minutes per speaker. We will then address the consent calendar, and then, we actually will address modification of agenda order, if any. Then we will do the consent calendar, then we'll do the regular order of business. I will introduce the item, address, and the design review number. Applicants will take their seats at the front desk. Ex parte disclosures will then be made by board members, followed by staff presenting a summary presentation and comments. At that time, the board will have the opportunity to ask staff questions. After that, I will declare the public hearing open. The applicant team will then have 5 minutes for presentation. Members of the public will then have 3 minutes each for comment. The applicant team will then have 3 minutes for rebuttal. At that point, the board will have the opportunity to question the applicant, after which the public hearing will be closed and the board will enter into deliberations and discussion. If a decision is made by the board, it will be done by a motion, a second, and a vote. For the information, if any person residing within 300 feet of the project who disagrees with the board's action will have 14 days to file an appeal. So with that said, let's start with public communications. Any member of the public wish to address the board on a matter that's not agendized within our purview? I see no one coming to the board, so we'll proceed to the consent calendar. There are 3 matters on the consent calendar. I will be dealing with them as one group. I will describe them briefly, and then first of all, is there any applicant here on any of the consent items? All right. Then after I describe them, we'll open the public hearing for any public comment on any of those items, after which we'll close the public hearing and the board will deliberate and make a decision. There's 3 items, 4.1, which is 2840 Zell Drive, Design Review 23-0834, Coastal Development Permit 24-2429, which is requesting a continuance to our June 12th meeting. 4.2 is 629 Balboa Avenue, Design Review 24-1841. And it too is requesting a continuance, or the applicant is requesting a continuance to June 12th. Finally, 4.3, which is 2354 San Clemente Street, Design Review 21-8817 and Coastal Development Permit 21-8819 and Variance 21-8820. And it too is requesting a continuance to June 12th. With that being said, now as I open the public hearing on those consent items, any comments from the public? Observing no one approaching the podium, I close the public hearing and I put it up for deliberations and any motion.
Chair, I'll move items on consent calendar 4.1, 4.2, and 4.3 as proposed by staff.
I'll second that.
Having heard a motion and a second, I put it to the roll call. Sarah?
Board Member Bauta,
Yes.
Board Member Coveney,
Yes.
Board Member Weil,
Yes.
Chair Pro Tem Gannon,
Yes.
and Chair Gibbs.
Yes. At this point, as 5.1 I am conflicted on, I'm going to turn the microphone over to the Chair Pro Tem, Board Member Gannon.
Okay, so 5.1 is located at 482 Astor Street. Do we have ex parte?
Chair, I went by the site and visited, spoke with Todd Skandarian.
I went by the site, met with Todd Skandarian.
And I did the same thing.
I also visited the site and met with Todd Skadarian.
Madam Vice Chair,
Yes.
I just wanted to say for the record, the reason why Chair Gibbs has recused himself, he has a interest due to his personal residence being the project before the board. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Lovely. Thank you.
And Chair Pro Tem, I'll call for an expedited hearing on this one.
I think that's valid. Kate, one of your lovely expedited presentations, please.
Yes, good evening, board. I'm Kate Kazama, Associate Planner, and item 5.1 is a request for modifications to a prior approval, which includes lower level additions, elevated deck expansion, window and door modifications, roof line reductions, and exceeding maximum building site coverage, and finding said action exempt from CEQA pursuant to CEQA guideline section 15301. And tonight staff is recommending approval of the project.
Thank you. Todd, you have 5 minutes.
Thank you. I'm Todd Skandarian, architect for the Gibbs family. Staff's introduction summarized our request for this minor remodel, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay. At this time, any members of the public wish to speak for or against 482 Astor? 482 Astor, North Laguna. No one? All right. You have 3 minutes for rebuttal.
No further comments.
All right. At this time, we will close the public hearing and do you guys have questions for applicant? No? Okay, public hearing is then closed. We'll go to board comments.
Chair, yeah, the project before us is minor in nature. It's very consistent with the neighborhood that it surrounds. It blends into the architectural design of the current structure. I also find that the exemption or the request for exceeding maximum site coverage is appropriate for this site and consistent with the neighboring properties. It would drastically reduce this applicant's right for enjoyment as others enjoy on the street. Other than that, it meets the design review criteria and I can support it fully this evening.
Right.
I concur with Board Member Weil. No view equity issues, no privacy issues. It's keeping with the design integrity, which is already neighborhood compatible. So the slight incremental increase for a better opportunity for the homeowner seems reasonable and has met design review criteria.
And the only comments I have is in relation to board members Weil and Coveney is minor addition to the rear yard, no privacy or view impacts. All the findings of facts can be met, and I'm ready to approve this project. Mayor.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with all the board members. I think it's very thoughtful for the neighborhood, and they did a great job of assessing. They had great early communication with the neighbors, and you can tell that this was well thought out and well planned. So kudos to the design team.
All right. Do we have a motion for approval?
Chair Pro Tem, on that, I'll move item number 5.1 at project location 482 Astor Street, that the board adopts resolution 250583, attachment 1, approving design review 25-0583 for modifications to prior approval that include lower level additions, elevated deck expansion, windows and door modifications, roof line reductions, exceeding maximum building site coverage, and find said action exempt from CEQA pursuant to the CEQA guidelines 15301.
I second that.
Sarah?
Board Member Bauta,
Yes.
Board Member Coveney,
Yes.
Board Member Weil,
Yes.
Chair Pro Tem Gannon,
Yes. And I'd like to say for the public, anytime a member of the board has a project come to us, it automatically gets appealed to city council. Okay, yeah.
In other words, good luck with that board.
I know. They won't be as tough as this board was. Anyway, thank you, board members, for considering it. And thank you, Kate. I appreciate your work on that. All right, back to business. So the next project we'll call is 5.2. It's 1685 Viking Road, Design Review 24-2334 and Coastal Development Permit 24-335. And I note the applicant is setting up.
Chair Gibbs, I do want to make a quick introduction here today. We have a new face here on staff who is making her first presentation to you, Sammy Montalto. I got that right. She's an associate planner, comes to us about 2 months, I guess, on staff, something like that, 3-ish months. Anyway, and we welcome her.
Ms. Montalto, welcome aboard. We appreciate your work and look forward to the projects you present us.
Oh, we need
All right,
ex
say,
parte.
and why don't you start?
Okay, we need ex parte.
Oh, thank you very much. Let's
I
do
did a
ex parte.
site visit and spoke with Steve Coratani.
I spoke with Steve Coratani and drove by the site.
Visited the site, spoke with Steve Coratani.
Visited the site, spoke with Steve Caratani, and spoke with Horst.
I spoke to Horst.
Chair, I'll call for an
I
expedited,
also know I spoke to Mr. Cordani.
I'll call for an expedited hearing on this one as well.
Everyone concur? I concur.
Yeah. Evidently, Sammy has some marvelous presentation. Would you like to present your slides? I think you have 6 of them or something like that.
We can expedite it if that's what you guys would prefer.
It's up to you. You have to speak into the microphone.
Sorry. Hi.
However you choose.
We can expedite it. I think we'd all.
Okay, go ahead.
Thanks a lot.
Let's expedite it. This is an easy one.
It's just the 5.2 is a request for a design review and a coastal development permit at 1685 Viking Road. Staff is recommending approval and finding said action exempt from CEQA under section 15301. Modifications include upper level additions, a new retaining wall, and grading.
Thank you. I'll open the public hearing, and Horst, you have 5 minutes.
Thank you, Design Review Board members. I'm Horst Knoppenberger, Horst Architects, or the project architects, and welcome, Sammy. You're going to love being here in Laguna Beach, and we're really happy to have you. I don't have anything really to add. Maybe if there's any questions, it's pretty simple, straightforward, minor revisions to a project that we had approved previously under construction.
All right, with that, I'll open the time for public comment. Any public comment? Seeing none, I return it to Horst for 3 minutes.
I'll just waive the rebuttal, please.
All righty.
Thank you.
With that said, questions for the applicant or staff? I have none. With that said, we close the public hearing and proceed to deliberations. Who would like to begin?
Chair, as seeing this project in 2013, October or September of 2013, I find the project to be consistent with the original approvals. It obviously these changes were driven by site condition changes during construction. It was my understanding. It's consistent with the design review guidelines, and I can fully support it this evening.
And I'd like to echo what Board Member Wiles just said.
I will echo that echo and thank you for bringing the residence imagery. I wasn't on when this originally was approved. Yeah, so it looks lovely and yeah, it's.
Well, I was going to echo my board members' echo until I saw the 2 photos, and I can't stand those projects. Honestly, no, just kidding. I support the project. Do we have a motion? Oh, I'm sorry.
I support the project as well. Just wanted to add, appreciate Horst's due diligence and coming back out and getting approvals. We thank you for that.
And I'll make a motion to adopt resolution 242334 for address 1685 Viking Road, approving design review and coastal development permit for modifications to a prior approval, DR 231115, and finding said action exempt from CEQA under section 15301.
I'll second that. Can we have the roll?
Board Member Bauta,
Yes.
Board Member Coveney,
Yes.
Board Member Weil,
Yes.
Chair Pro Tem Gannon,
Yes.
and Chair Gibbs.
Yes. All right. Well, congratulations, Horst. All righty. So I will read the next item, and in the process, that's be 5.3. Can the applicant come up to the table? Horst, you dropped something. Next project is 5.3, 934 Miramar, Design Review 25-0256. Why don't we proceed with ex parte?
I did a site visit with Steve Coratani, met with both neighbors on each side of the applicant.
And
didn't
I
get their
also met
names.
with Steve Coratani, and I met with the neighbor, Mr. Gable, and also Mr. and Mrs. McCray, I believe is their name, as well as Mr. Zentner, who was back on the back street on Noria.
Mr. Bato?
I met with Steve Caratani. We did site visit for both neighbors. We met both neighbors as well. And I also met with Mark and went to the site with him as well.
Mr. Weil?
Yeah, Steve Cortani and both neighbors and did the site visit.
Okay, I met with Mark Warren at the site. I also met with both neighbors and Mr. Coratani. That's Mr. McCray and Mr. Gable. I also met with Charlie Zender and saw his property at 971 Noria. With that said,
Mr. Chair,
yes.
I'd like to introduce another
Excellent.
new planner here today for you folks. Mr. Matthew Kilroy is our project planner on this one. He's been with us for about 3 months, and so we obviously welcome him as well.
Mr. Kilroy, welcome aboard. We look forward to hearing projects from you and appreciate you're on the team. So if you could proceed with the presentation on 934 Miramar.
Good evening. Thank you, Chair and members of the board, for welcoming me. Tonight, I'll be discussing item 5.3, which is a request for design review at 934 Miramar Street. Staff has received a site visit request and correspondences from several neighbors. The project site has a land use designation of village low density and located in the R1 zone with the Arch Beach Heights specific plan. The existing neighborhood consists of mostly 2-story homes. In 1968, the property was developed with a 1,271 square foot, 2-story, single-family dwelling with an attached 2-car garage. The property has not previously been through design review. The applicant is proposing a 42 square foot lower level addition, 535 square foot upper level addition over the existing garage, 143 square foot elevated deck addition, and window and door changes that are in kind, and exterior modifications. No new landscaping is proposed at this time. Here's a floor plan illustrating the existing and proposed lower level addition, which will enclose a small 42 square foot entryway located adjacent to the garage and directly underneath the proposed closet to the upper level addition. Here's a floor plan illustrating the existing and proposed upper level additions. The 535 square foot addition will consist of a bedroom, bathroom, office, and closet and occupy the full space above the garage. Additionally, the 143 square foot deck will be located across the front of the upper level addition and cantilever 6 feet and 10 inches towards Miramar Street over the driveway. Here are the front western and side northern elevations. Hardy siding will be replacing the existing wood. Here are the rear, the eastern, and the side southern elevations. In the rear, cables will replace the existing wood paneling for deck railing. Staff finds that this project is consistent with the design review criteria and recommends that the board conduct a public hearing and adopt resolution number 25-0256, approving DR 25-0256, and finding said action exempt from CEQA. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Excellent presentation. Does the board have any questions of staff?
I do. When you write these reports, do you visit the sites?
I do, yes.
Okay. And do you visit the neighbor's home and review, like for the criteria for view impact or privacy impacts?
I stand on the public sidewalk and view it from each side. I was not invited over there, but I did receive public photos from the neighbors to the north and correspondence to the neighbor to the south.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions? All righty, I'll open the public hearing. Applicant, you have 5 minutes. It needs to show a green light.
It's green. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. This is one of Chris Abel's projects from 1968. I worked with Chris for 25 years until he died. And I'm really proud to work on this one. And Greg has seen this project and he thinks it looks even better than the original. Part of our design intent was to change. We went through several with a flat roof, a roof that matched the existing roof, and then one that went the other way. And this was our end result. It may seem that it's high in square footage addition upstairs, but it fits what is down below. And the office is incidental. It's not really a big office. It's almost the size of a closet. It's just so that you're not down in the lower floor and the wife's sleeping up, late at night and you're too far away. So that was a really intent for that. Most houses in Archbage Heights are 6 feet apart, and ours is 8'4" on both sides in some instances. So we're not really that close. And I think that the design, it meets the criteria for Archbage Heights. Staff also acknowledges that. And the doors and windows most of them are existing, and the new ones are, I believe, incidental and don't create any privacy issues with the neighbors. And I don't know if staff mentioned it, but we are raising the existing roof in the back 4 inches so we can provide insulation to that part of the house. Right now, there's no insulation in the roof. And when we initially started this, we did consider the neighbors, but I do believe that 40 feet back and a minor window in a kitchen is not a primary view and can't be used to deny a project or cut it back so far that there's nothing to do. And the neighbor to the north, we didn't have any comments from them until the stakes went up, which is what usually happens, that you can't see three-dimensionally how it impacts them. The pictures that they've sent to the city with the red indications aren't depictive of the total mass. They're showing the eaves rather than the walls. So it's not that massive. And if staff has any comments, I'll be glad to answer them.
Okay, thank you. You're done with your
Yes.
opening presentation. At this time, we will accept comments from the public. Please come to the podium, and I'd appreciate it if you state your name before you begin and your address if you can. And you will each have 3 minutes.
Hello, I'm Bill Gable. I thank all of you for coming out to my house yesterday and to my neighbor's house so you could have an idea of what the situation is. When I first bought my house back in 1990, 35 years ago, what appealed to me then appeals to me now. It was bright and light and open and airy with a lot of windows. Were this project to be approved, it would have much less of those qualities. When I opened the blinds in the kitchen, I wouldn't see brightness and light, I'd see a wall. Likewise, my front deck is rather private. Should this project be approved, much of that privacy would be lost. I would look to my right and see my neighbor just a few feet away. These neighbors are not especially respective of privacy. When Chris Abel designed and built these houses back in 1968, he placed them on the lots as he did for a reason, to avoid just this kind of situation. One of the houses would be forward facing, the other facing toward the rear. Mine faces toward the front and has a nice front view. The other faces toward the rear and has two huge decks with ocean views. I don't have any ocean view in the back. The room addition would also destroy the nature of the Chris Abel design. I'd like to talk about DRB guidelines and early neighborhood meetings. There were no early meetings, at least with me. The first I knew of the project was seeing the story poles go up one morning. I contacted the applicant immediately and was told that this was something she and her partner had wanted and been planning for over 6 years. 6 years, and not one word to me. Clearly, there were no early meetings. I would also like to discuss the subject of taking. Brian and I, my neighbor, bought houses. We did what we wanted with them. We didn't have to take anything from anybody. And now we have neighbors in the middle of us who want to take what we've developed in order for them to get what they want. I don't think it's right. I don't know the reason for that.
If you could wrap up your comments, your 3 minutes are up.
I understand. I'm leaving you with that. I also gave a written presentation. I don't know whether my letter is in the file or not. If it is not, I do have copies for
Mr. Gable, we have it. If you
each
could
and
wrap
every
up,
one of
please.
you, if you would like copies, any of you. You got it?
We have it.
All right.
Thank
great.
you.
Thanks.
Next.
Hello, my name is Ryan McRae. Dear Design Review Board members, my wife Hodl and I would like to thank you for taking the time yesterday to come visit our home and listen to our concerns regarding the existing proposal for the build out at 934 Miramar. My wife grew up in town and I've lived here for about 25 years. We spent 20 years working hard, diligently saving, foregoing luxury items, and extravagant vacations in order to help obtain our dream of purchasing a home in this special community. We consider ourselves lucky and privileged to have finally reached that goal, along with having the opportunity to live amongst mostly supportive, caring, and considerate neighbors, and to have a home with a small but limited ocean view from the master bedroom. Because it is small and limited, it makes it that much more precious to us. While we have a large backyard, our ocean views are limited to the back half of the yard, and even then they are obstructed by the neighbor's large upstairs deck and giant trees. We would like to reiterate that we are very disappointed that we find ourselves here speaking to you tonight, as we feel most of this likely could have been avoided had our neighbors sought out a more constructive and consultative approach to their desire to expand the footprint of their home, which already enjoys sweeping ocean views from their upstairs approximately 500 square foot deck, its substantial additional lot directly behind their home. They have claimed to quote unquote just follow the process. However, upon discussions with many of you, that does not seem to be the case. We had discussions over the fence 3 years ago, mentioning that we were thinking about building out, and they had said the same thing. That was the extent of our discussions. We expected them to come to us as they were moving forward the process to have a more detailed discussion about their proposals. We're also sad as this process has introduced an unwanted negative atmosphere into our closely grouped homes, and we feel that we have lost what we thought were friends. I would like to ask Chuck and Susie, please try to put yourself in our shoes. And how would you feel if the situation were reversed? I would like to we therefore respectfully request the Design Review Board deny the existing proposal and encourage
the applicants to start over, listen to and understand the substantial feedback and concerns from the surrounding and affected homeowners, and consider significant revisions, including lowering the roof height no higher than the existing level, pulling back significantly so as not to block ocean views and existing open space and light in our main living space, and stay within existing width of the current building. Or more preferably, pursue a more unobstructive alternative option, such as building in the back of their home under their lower deck, as other neighbors have done, which would afford them additional privacy, beautiful canyon and ocean views, with minimal impact to any surrounding homes or views. It's worth mentioning that had they pursued preemptive neighborhood dialogue, feedback, and discussion, and chosen that path, none of us would likely be here in this position this evening. Thanks again for your time and consideration. Ryan and Hoddle McRae.
Excuse me. Thank you, Mr. McRae. Next.
Could we queue up my slides, please? Sarah, you've shorted me. Oh, he gave me the 4 seconds back. Thank you. Well, I can begin, and we'll wait for the slides to come up. My name is Steve Kawaratani, and I represent Bill and Ryan, who have just presented to you. I want to thank the board for visiting us yesterday. And I wanted to remind the board that the city's design guidelines basically balance reasonable development with a protection of a neighbor's access to natural light, air, view equity, and privacy. Are my slides coming soon? As far as neighborhood compatibility, I knew Chris Abel very well. He had 4 outstanding architects work for him. One of them is Mark Warren, and I've had the opportunity to work with all of them. I think if you look at the project and say, well, gee, we're entitled to 2-story program, I would not argue with that at all. Most of the homes are 2 stories there, but what happened is because both staff and the architect didn't really have the opportunity to go into neighboring properties, they failed to see that the neighboring properties are enjoying air, light, and view, and privacy. So as far as design articulation, I believe that the project, although I think it honors Chris Abel, I think it's a little too ambitious, and the appearance of building mass and scale due to excessive height, size, and absence of offsets are hurting the project. Next slide, please. So the top photograph is from the kitchen of the neighboring property that belongs to Bill, and the lower photograph belongs to Ryan and his family. And my issue for both is that we are cutting off with this program natural air and light for both proposals. I believe that the upper levels should be offset and pulled back from the front and on the side property lines to reduce massing and shading for both adjacent properties. Next slide. Privacy is also an issue. They have a cantilever deck that's coming out, and I believe that's going to create a substantial activity area. And it's something that's going to have to be either reduced or mitigated, potentially. Last slide. View equity. My argument here is that the quality of a view is more important than the size or quantity of a view. My clients enjoy a modest view currently, and they would like to retain it if the board so deigns. And probably my last comment is based on what Matthew had to say and the question that came from board member Gannon. It probably would be helpful if staff had the opportunity to look at potential impacts from the interior of neighboring properties before completing the staff report. Thank you.
Okay, next. Again, excuse me, please state your name and if you're a neighbor, your property address.
I am Gary Olshan. I live at 916 Miramar Street. I am a neighbor and in the neighborhood. And I'm here to speak on neighborhood compatibility and what I consider to be objectively a massive addition to the home. And that would take up the whole viewing from the street of just seeing the home once it's put up. If you go out there now and you see those stakes go up, they go out all the way to the property lines, up 31. And I think the ceiling height is, the allowable envelope is 30 inches or 31 inches. This goes up, to my perception, higher than that based upon it's on top of the top floor, if you will. There's like a half a floor above the garage. So it's on top of that. I asked how, when we had the meeting, we had a meeting on Thursday, a week ago. We had no knowledge, none, no communication, no, hey, I'm just going to let you know that we are going to be staking the property and doing some, proposals for, additions. There was nothing. We got there that morning and we were presented with a fait accompli. This was a final plan. I asked for a copy. I was denied. I then looked at it and I asked about the height. And I was told that the height's within the envelope, the building envelope. All right, I want to show you, I have a diagram. And this is really your diagram. But,
Yeah, don't approach us. You can give it to the clerk.
that is an allowable building envelope in your publication, page 12. Okay, that's the maximum. While that's not a scaled representation of the present project, it gives you an illustration of what's allowable and what is approvable. Now, having said that, this property goes all the way out to the property lines. That's another criteria in your guidelines. It should not go all the way out. So it goes up, it goes out, and it's pulled forward. In addition, there's going to be a deck on the property, on the front of the property. All you see when you walk by, pass it, all you see is a total mass, unbroken planes, and I'm disappointed and that the recommendation has been approval. What I'm suggesting today is that it be denied, that we have a collaborative effort among the neighbors. We're living in the neighborhood. We all get along. We'd like to get along with everybody. This is not the case here. When we went to the meeting, I asked pointedly, I said,
please,
I'm finishing up. I asked pointedly about the windows being blocked. They told me they were not primary windows. They were not to be concerned. And in addition to that, they said they eyed it and there'll be some light.
Okay.
The meeting went downhill from there.
Please conclude your comments.
Okay. I am disappointed that the recommendation was for approval. As a matter of fact, just now, Mr. Wallace.
I'm going to have to cut you off. You said that.
He said it's not that massive. It is massive. And he admitted it. It's massive.
Thank you very much, Mr. Olshan. Next.
My name is Sherry Anderson. I live at 971 Noria. First, I sincerely thank the members of the Design Review Board for your time commitment and dedication working to maintain the character of Laguna Beach. I thank Thomas Gibbs and Mary Jo Coveney for taking the time to visit our home to see the view impact of the proposed project on our southwestern view to San Clemente Island. My husband, Charlie Zender, has also volunteered his time for the City of Laguna Beach, most recently on the Environmental Sustainability Committee. So it is with deep respect of the service that you provide for our city that I express our opposition to the proposed project at 934 Miramar. Your task is especially difficult when faced with the rights of property owners to enhance and enjoy their homes, especially when one owner's enhancement reduces the enjoyment of others. This project in its current form with the increased roofline, height of the roofline, diminishes the views that we enjoy from our upstairs rooms and balcony. We also recognize the concerns of others in our neighborhood who are disproportionately burdened by this project that will encroach on their enjoyment of their properties. Thank you for considering these effects when reviewing the project proposal that has brought our neighborhood here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else?
Good evening. My name is Nia Evans. I'm here today on behalf of my parents who live at 978 Miramar. And for the record, I would also like to eventually end up at 978 Miramar, so it's in everyone's interest. I'm just going to read something that they wrote. Okay, I'm here to express my concern regarding the application for improvements at 934 Miramar. While the proposed enhancements may increase the value of that specific property, they do so at the cost of diminishing both the value and the quality of life for surrounding neighbors. This kind of one-sided benefit creates an inequitable situation that is fundamentally at odds with the spirit of our neighborhood. The role of approving this application in its current form sets a precedent that allows individual property enhancements to come at the expense of the neighbor's rights and enjoyment. This is simply not right. Furthermore, the process itself was troubling. There was a noticeable lack of opportunity for meaningful input from neighboring residents. The absence of this engagement is disheartening and undermines the sense of community collaboration that should be at the heart of decisions like these. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you very much. Anyone else?
Hi, Ellen Germano. I'm in the neighborhood too on Miramar, 1005. The thing that bothers me the most, I don't know all the details of the planning of it, of the design as much, but the fact that on the very same day, we received the neighborhood communication and the DRB card from the city. I work for a local architect. You don't do that. So that was really bothering me, that they didn't talk to the neighbors that are right in the neighborhood or have a neighborhood meeting prior to sending out the city postcards. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Seeing no other person approaching the podium stand there, I return it to the applicant for 3 minutes for reply.
Okay, thank you. We are about 2 feet below the height limit above the street. We are within the side setbacks and have minimal eaves on the sides. And on the front, we only have a 30-inch overhang facing west. And the primary concern with the side windows and Arch Beach Heights is, as I mentioned earlier, you can't condemn a lot for a window 40 feet back from the street, which is the primary windows are master bedroom and living room. It's not even a secondary bedroom, it's a kitchen. He has another window in the back of his house. So he's not totally deprived of light, but he won't see the activity on the street. But there still is an angle from there out towards the street, and he could actually see part of the house across the street even with where the stakes are now. We really need some direction from the board on what they deem as acceptable, of how much light and air the neighbors need when we're at 8 feet, 3 inches away, and most houses in Arch Beach Heights are 6 feet away. We have minimal overhangs and we're more than the usual distance apart from the houses. So we need direction, clear direction from you. And I can answer any questions you have.
If you could address the concerns expressed by several of the public about early neighbor communications.
There was a mix-up with that. This project was submitted quite a long time ago, and Garrett had cleared it. And for 15 months, we had no go-ahead with the city to go ahead and have design review. So we didn't get our notice that we're clear to go. And all of a sudden, in 2 weeks, we had to jam everything together to put it together. And the neighborhood meeting was part of that.
Okay.
I have a question, Chair. I have a question, Chair.
Yeah, I'm turning it to the board for questions. So please
well
go
then
ahead.
Turn to me. You said there's 8 feet of
8
setback?
feet 3 between buildings.
Okay,
on north
can you
and
tell
south.
me where that is? Because I don't see it. Am I missing something? On the McCray side?
On the north side, they have a 5-foot setback. We have 3'3". I believe 3'4".
But your setback from property line is 3'4".
It's 3'4", and they have 5 feet.
Okay, so they've given you some space there on their, on their side, but you haven't given them any space. on
That's
theirs.
where the existing building
Okay.
is.
And then the 8 feet that you mentioned, is that the 8 feet that you mentioned, or is there something else on Mr.
That's
Gates?
on the other side as well.
And that's only in that the front section, not the
Yes.
part that the closet that sits
Right,
in
but
front of
that's
the
what
window?
opens up the view to
Okay.
toward the street.
Okay. And you said your eaves on this new addition are,
The existing roof is 12 inches on the sides. We would like to cut it back to 7, so we have just a little bit. It's probably dry rot and termites anyway, so we want to cut it back to 7 inches and put a new eave at that point on both sides all the way down
and they'll extend 7 inches from the existing,
from the existing
Wall.
face of the wall,
Okay.
only out 7 instead of 12 inches.
and your plate heights in the upper level, well, actually, let's start in the bottom, the garage that's going to be converted. What
Mhm.
is your ceiling height there?
It's 8 feet 3¾ floor to floor.
And then the lowest part of the upper to the highest part?
It's
Yeah, I couldn't find it. I was not the best plan person, but it was.
It's not in there.
So,
It looked like about 12 feet. Is that about right?
So on the low end, it's like 8¼
and then your highest point is 15, just,
I thought 12.
I don't have that dimensioned here.
thank you.
It looked like about 12, but can you tell us that dimension? Because that's important to me as well, the dimension on the high side.
It's
Or, Mr. Kilroy, can you tell us what you? Yeah,
It's 3'8" above the existing roof.
I'm sorry, what is it?
It's 3'8" above the existing roof sloping back down. We have
3'8",
clear story.
that's right, so it's about
Yeah.
12 feet
So we have clear story windows across there
at the top.
facing east.
Yeah, I kind of did eye calculation that the plate height, in other words, from the floor to that highest point in the ceiling is about 12 feet.
Okay.
Is that about
Well,
right?
it's showing 12 feet for the existing, and he's saying it's 3.8 feet, so this is 12 feet. Yeah, so it's,
If you look at the.
right, so it's 15 feet, if not 16 feet.
Chair, if I may,
Oh.
it is 12 feet
103.
to the
The-
highest point.
The new addition?
That's correct,
Okay.
over the garage,
12 feet.
about.
If you look at the elevations, it shows. All right, so we'll take it about 12 feet. Any other questions before I have a few? Yeah, so looking at the main issue seems to be the upper addition above the garage. And you have a fairly high 12-foot, but it goes to 8 feet. You have a chosen, what is, by the way, what is the degree of incline?
The slope, I'm not sure right now.
How much?
I don't know the exact slope
Is it
number.
feasible to reduce it? So to reduce the 12 feet to something, say, 10 feet, consistent with your design? Or what would be the negatives? Would it be something acceptable to the applicant?
The tricky thing is the header at the garage, at the master bedroom, that's going to be a pivot. If you bring this down, this end comes up. So if this comes down too far, it's going to come up more into their view. So I've been looking at possibilities to cut this as thin as I can, the 7-foot door and a header and the roof assembly on top of that. We can, at the most, shave that down to, on one version, 6 3/4 inches. Another one would be 9 1/8, and that would bring the back down as well.
Okay, so again, I want to understand what's feasible. How many feet could you reduce consistent with your design, that upper point, the 12-foot point? I know it kind of, it kind of jags, toward the back, but
Yeah.
can you do that, say, 2 feet consistent with your design?
You might be able to lower it a foot if we still want to maintain a 12-inch window across the back.
That's the window that
The
faces.
clear story where the the step is.
The faces toward the canyon?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I don't have any further questions. Anyone else have questions?
One quick question, Chair. Is the garage going to be demolished and rebuilt in place, or it's going to be just
It'll be retained.
retained? Okay.
All right. Anything else? With that, I close the public hearing. Who would like to begin? Ms. Comey, you're
All right,
on.
I'll begin. I'm kind of all over the place, so hang in there with me. There was a couple of thoughts I had. First, I wanted to address something that was brought up about staff, Steve going to see the houses. I think that it's not always necessary for them to go in for their element of the staff report. It's our job to determine what the problems might be. If they take time to go into each neighbor, you know how long that could become. It's quite a time consuming. And in the end, they're going to leave it to us to decide anyway. So it's just for the record, I think it's concept wise, it makes sense, but in reality, I don't think it's something we can do. Also, in regard to meeting with neighbors, always essential, always good, never usually works out that great if there's a contentious build like this. I just think it helps make the process better. As painful and as uncomfortable as it is for everybody, it's just the right thing to do. So I encourage you moving forward to try. Undoubtedly, this would have just, but what you want to do and what they want, I don't know if it would have been a pleasant experience, but it's always good to try. That's just for future reference. Overall, I think the idea that the excellent architect, Chris Abel, created a concept up here. Arch Beach is kind of a interesting, unique story. He built, I think, for the reasons that Steve and several people mentioned. I don't think he had any concept of where Laguna was going to be and where we've ended up now with the growth. With that in mind, I think we have to be respectful to that process in this neighborhood. Doesn't mean you can't get bigger, doesn't mean you can't build. I think the solution you've made for this particular architecture, Chris would be thrilled with. I think you must have really learned from him because it shows. I just don't think it's in the right place necessarily because of the uniqueness of this particular lot in this particular neighborhood. I think mass and scale is too much. I think that the loss of Mr. Gable's view from his sink is not a primary view. It is not a ceremonial space. It is a personal space that a lot of us love. Our kitchen sinks are pretty much someplace we unfortunately spend a lot of time. I do think it does affect his light and air, and I do think your closet protruding out as far as it does affects that. I think by building out as far as you have affects that. You decide how much you think you can come down and still maintain the integrity that the homeowner wants. I think that the McCrae's side, as much as they have extended their setbacks, and that's a good thing for them, and that allows them some flexibility now as builds start to happen. But I don't think that's a gimme to you all. I think it's up to you all to also give them something in that setback to give them a little light and air. I think that overall mass and scale coming down will give that to them. I don't think you're going to get Mr. McCrae's perfect view back. I don't think that, Mr. Gable's perfect view back. And I don't think the McCrae's are going to get a completely open air view, but it'll give them a little relief if you take the scale down. As far as the Zentners and the folks back on Noria, I believe, I don't think that's a view, and I mentioned that when I was there, as I'm sorry, but I just feel like that view from where they are is not really a view. They have a lovely view out their side windows. It's more of an angled view. You have to, it's a nice thing that you catch, but you don't necessarily make an effort to see it. So I don't feel like it's a hero view that has to be maintained, but I do feel like they're going to benefit from the changes you're going to make for Mr. McCrae and Mr. Gable, that by coming down and coming in, that's going to relieve their impact. So that's just going to happen naturally. I think your deck in the front is fine. I just feel like it should not be in line with Mr. Gable's. I feel like it should be offset somehow, most likely back as opposed to forward. Because I think you have a little bit of space there that you could go forward, but it should be back if you choose to do that. Eaves, and I'm sure Ms. Gannon, she's an Eve person, so she'll probably pick this up. I think that those will need to be as minimal as possible, because when you are in these tight kind of shoebox type homes, and which initially had nothing in front, now is going to have this mass, that those eaves do create a more of a cocoon feeling, and that needs to be eliminated as much as possible, but still allow for drainage and whatever architectural element you feel it provides. I think if I think of anything else, I'll jump back in after my other colleagues here make the remarks, but that's basically my thoughts.
Who wants to go next?
I can take it. MJ, I think you hit it on the head. I think you addressed most of the concerns that were articulated by the neighborhood. And I think the early neighbor communication probably could have been elaborated a little bit more. It seems like they weren't heard. I'm glad that we have this opportunity to hear them. Mass and scale, I think with regard to design articulation, I think it's a bit imposing, especially for neighbors. For the neighbor to the north, I was standing in their living room and I saw the bulk of it, and that's really where it hit home for me. I was just standing in it. It's very imposing, and with regard to light and air, I think that's a big limitation for their living space. So I think we can consider some of that, in the deliberation. I agree on the comment on eaves. I think we could dial those back as much as we can, and then preserving some kind of a setback for both neighbors. What that is, we could have some dialogue on it, but I want to applaud the architect for the design integrity. I think it's very well met with regard to the original design. So I applaud him on that end. Yeah, and then privacy. I think the deck alignment, even for your own enjoyment. I used to live up in Arch Beach Heights. It benefits both parties for them to not be in alignment. So you may want to consider a site setback in your review. That's it.
All right. Thank you. I'm going to go next only to give a little bit of a different counterpoint here, and then for the consideration of the two board members who have not spoken. The current house is 1,271 square feet. It's a small home. The addition is modest to include a bedroom upstairs of 535 square feet with a very modest deck of 143 square feet. I walk the neighborhood. Virtually all homes have a second story that has a similar setback to both neighbors, both the McCrays and the Gables, that the proposed project proposes to bring to a setback. So I would find it neighborhood compatible. Also, as evidence from the McCrays' house, the second story is dedicated to bedroom, as theirs is. So I find that the use of that space is appropriate. Mass and scale, I would find mass and scale to be neighborhood compatible and consistent with the pattern of development throughout Miramar. That's just what the houses look like. I sense that there's a little bit of a vacant lot syndrome here, and I no doubt that I'll take it at its word that Chris Abel designed the house so that I believe Mr. Gable's house would have that open space from that kitchen window. I understand that the McCrays' house was not a Chris Abel house and came either earlier or later. But that being said, we live in 2025, and the test we have is not what the original plan of development is, but is it neighborhood compatible? And it's a tight neighborhood with narrow setbacks. So when somebody builds a second story, which only is going to bring this house to, under 2,000 square feet, I think it deserves fair consideration with the actual neighborhood compatibility rather than trying to go back in history. I am sensitive to, and I'll start with Mr. Gable's kitchen window. I'm very sensitive to neighbors' impacts. And, you know, the board is, and we should be. And it's tough. But there's going to be, they have every right to build a second story there. And however you build it, maybe you pull it back a foot or two, it's not going to improve that window. And that's just, unless you say that they can't build a second story there, I think there's very little that can be done. I don't see any view equity issue relating to Mr. Gables. Now, McCray is a second story, and actually I think it's kind of above where this house is going to go. The hallway is not a ceremonial room, and in my view is not entitled to view protection. The bedroom is. And, you know, we need to weigh that. It's not a total view blockage, but I look carefully at those photos. It does block view. I think that something can be done to improve the view in that room because it is in a, you know, it's a master bedroom. It's a limited ocean view. I think the project's going to have much more major ocean view. I'm not sure what can be done given your entitlement to develop, but it's a big master bedroom. So I'm confident, and where I would draw as a request for, and I think this is likely going to second hearing given the two comments, and what I would like to see is improving the McCray's master bedroom window. Then with respect to the view from the Zender's house, they have a beautiful view. And, you know, it's not total protection of views, it is view equity. And I think MJ said it well, that, you know, view equity is achieved, the marginal impact on views. And I was thinking about reducing maybe that top ridge to improve the Zender views. But kind of given the discussion, and I think the importance of the architectural feature to maintain this Chris Abel kind of interesting design house, I would not call for any change there and would find view equity vis-a-vis the Zenders. So I just wanted to give those views because I think they're at some, oh, and the privacy. I didn't see any privacy. I tried to line up the windows. I did not see any discrete privacy issue regarding windows. But, you know, I think when it comes back, I would caution or ask you to work with the neighbors to really look at, we're going to get a consensus. I'm going to see where we are for your direction for the second hearing. But I think that one thing that was missing here, and I understand the explanation, was a lack of early neighbor communications. And even though I probably am a little bit more liberal in what I would allow with this project, you're hearing some fairly significant comments from two of the board members already that I think should tell you that between now and the next hearing, that you do try to meet with neighbors and you try to come up with, you know, some kind of accommodations if you can. And it may require some reduction of the second story. So I wanted the other board members to hear my comments. And who's next?
I'll take the roll.
Oh.
Unless you would like, Louis? No? Okay. I went thumbs up for all my talking points for board members, Emer and Coveney, with a little bit of agreement with Chair. Mark Singer would definitely appreciate your take on this and your improvements. I have Mark Singer, sorry, different person. Chris Abel.
Yes.
Okay. View equity. Yeah, I agree with the board members straight across. There's very little view, but the view it's a peekaboo view. If you can, I don't know that reducing the floor heights or even pushing the house back away from the street, if that would alleviate that or improve that. I'll leave that for you to figure out. The due to the proximity of the neighbors' homes, like she said, if you can give relief on the eaves, that would probably help with mass and scaling and also light and air. And then floor to ceiling windows. If no one else had an issue with the floor to ceiling windows, you said you lined up the windows. Okay. So there's no privacy concern there. I think the only thing I need to add is the articulation for the upper level. If there's some way without ruining the design or the complement of what's already there, instead of having straight up and down walls, maybe articulate on the sides of that upper level. That would give relief, especially pertaining to that walk-in closet. Maybe push it back closer towards the backyard. It doesn't take much. What else? I think that's it. Everyone else covered it. Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Weil, you're on.
So I'll keep it kind of brief. I concur with Board Member Bauta, Gannon, and Coveney that the project needs some revisions and some work. I think it's a decent starting point. I mean, I think Arch Beach Heights, I mean, it's like as I was walking the street, like this stretch of Arch Beach Heights actually has some more characteristics within the homes. A couple across the way, the three that are right in this little stretch. It's not quite the consistency of, say, other parts of Arch Beach Heights where it's literally just box on box on box or two shoe boxes stacked. So it does provide some relief to some of the existing homeowners. And I think, you know, as creatively designed as this was originally, I do think that the work is trying to emulate that as well. But the master bedroom, I think, does need some compression. I'd like to probably see some side yard setback relief on the upper level. Just similar to what you did on the desk side or the office side in the closet. I think if we're talking on that side, I think it just needs to be pushed back just a little bit more to give some more room for that window, but you could still have that part come to the full side setback. But I think just taking another look at the window, there's probably a decent line that you can kind of draw up. But I think right now it extends just a little too far. On the other side, I think we're really trying to look for that window to get kind of that peak view of the ocean down the front down the front yard view. Doesn't mean that view is going to be maintained in its total, but I think there is some creative solves that you guys could incorporate that maybe with reductions or working on the eaves, maybe lowering the roof a little bit, but I'm going to leave it to you to take a look. But I do think some reduction is needed for that upper level to kind of make this more balanced amongst the neighborhood. But decent first start. A lot of good comments around the horn, but I do think it needs work, and so I'd be supportive of a continuance tonight.
Okay, anyone else have any more comments before I try to summarize consensus here?
One last point. The couple of windows that are being added or replaced that are more the bathrooms kind of in the mid part of the structure, I traditionally try to request those be frosted or opaque of some sort of nature. They're not necessarily view windows because you're kind of staring back at neighbors at that point. But for newer builds, we try to be mindful of at least the rest of the bathrooms to maintain the privacy for you guys and for them.
Okay, given that there's a lot of comments, I'm going to try to summarize what I'm hearing as a consensus that I'd ask you to really focus on among the other comments. One is what I'm hearing is a second story in this location has a consensus of, acceptability. However, it needs to be reduced. On the gable side, need to bring it in somewhat to give a little bit more light and air through that window. You heard different views. I think some board members would want it in more. Maybe some, like me, would probably be okay with it where it is. But I think you probably need to come in at least a couple of feet. And by the way, I'm going to throw it open to the board to comment on my consensus summary. On the McCray side, where I'm hearing the consensus is you need to address the peekaboo view from the master bedroom of the McCrays. I think with that and reducing, by doing those two things and address the eaves issue, make them as small as you can. With those modifications, I think it will improve the mass and scale. Also, I think it'll improve some articulation that could be beneficial for this house. With respect to the Zenders, I'm hearing consensus that there is no view equity issues there. So the height of the addition on top of the garage going to the back, I think we talked about 12 feet, I think has a consensus okay with that. Also, I did not see any view equity, privacy issues with the side windows, but I would request that you communicate with the McRae's if they're willing and the Gables to make sure that there is, that any privacy issues are addressed. And that can include, those are not, where they're not, view type windows. Frosting is always, a way of solving that problem. So I wanted, I don't think there's a privacy issue, but if there is, I think those get ferreted out in early neighbor communications, and that needs to happen before the next hearing. I'm just going through, before I turn it over to you guys, I just want to make sure that I haven't missed anything. Is that good with you? All right, I'll put it up to the board. Any comments on my summary?
No, I think you pretty much summed it up pretty well.
On that, I'll move a continuance. Do we want to recommend a date from staff
Hang on.
of next available, or
Sure.
how far up?
Some of this obviously will take some time of the architect to kind of come up with some of the answers to the questions here, but I think if we're looking for a date in July 10th, we need to have plans back to the city on May 21st. So that's a pretty good amount of time potentially to address the concerns of the board for that particular hearing date.
Does that work for you?
Yeah.
All right, so I'll move item number 5.3 at 934 Miramar Street to be continued to July 10th.
Second.
Do I have a second? Oh, second.
I second.
Not, oh, you second it?
I just
She
talk
beat
low.
me to it. Sarah, call the roll, please.
Board Member Bauta,
Yes.
Board Member Coveney,
Yes.
Board Member Weil,
Yes.
Chair Pro Tem Gannon,
Yes.
and Chair Gibbs.
Yes. Okay, with that, I'm going to turn the next item over to Chair Pro Tem Gannon, as I am conflicted out because I live within 500 feet of the project. No, I'm a stick. Are you guys
You guys
going to
stick
go
around?
out to Lumberyard after?
I think so.
Yeah.
Oh,
What?
no.
What? Are you gonna do it?
Patrick, you and Bill, procedurally.
Then I'll take off.
Yeah, don't worry. I got
Wanna go
their
for the
hand.
tour? All right. Actually,
Don't use the waste time.
Okay, one beer.
Okay, one beer.
I'm a-
Okay. The next project is located at 514 Poplar Street, 514 Poplar Street. Do we have ex parte?
Do we?
Walked the neighboring site, spoke with Keith and the applicant team and Mark Christie. Yeah,
I met with the applicant team and Steve Coratani and the neighbors that he was representing.
and I spoke with Steve Cortani.
I spoke with Steve Coratani and the applicant team.
I spoke with Steve Coratani, the applicant team, the neighbor, the representative from the architect, Keith, and numerous other sideline people.
Yes.
Mr. Latham, your fabulous presentation, please.
Thank you, Pro Tem Chair Gannon, not Chair Gannon. Item 5.4 is for a project at 514 Poplar Street. The project site is located in North Laguna at the corner of High Drive and Poplar. The proposed project involves demolishing the existing site improvements and constructing a new single-family residence. The design also integrates a public sidewalk along Poplar Street where one currently does not exist. The existing sidewalk on Harold Drive will remain. Vehicular access to the proposed residence will be provided from Poplar Street, and the existing vehicular access from Harold will be eliminated. At the first hearing on February 27, 2025, The board members agreed that the front corner of the house needs to be pulled in or lowered to open up the view of Catalina Island from 528 Poplar Street's window and eliminate the variance for the driveway slope. The applicant has eliminated the variance for the driveway slope and pulled in the house from that corner of the corner of the house. And since this meeting was continued, we received public correspondence from the neighbor at 528 Poplar Street, and they have continued concerns regarding the Catalina view. And so it's staff's recommendation to conduct this public hearing and consider view equity before approving the project. That concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Latham. You have 5 minutes.
Okay, hello. I'm Chris Baxter. It's good to be here again, represent the Saunders this evening. So just a little bit more detail about the.
Can you speak into the mic?
Yeah, just a little bit more information about the details that Daniel talked about. We were asked to redesign the master bedroom corner, pull back the roof overhang, and reduce the building height. The corner was pulled back 6 feet from the site setback, and it reduced the project square footage by 50 square feet. When redesigning the roof, we pulled the roof edge back 11'9" and replaced it with a flat roof that had no overhangs. And we lowered the entire building 6 inches, including the garage, and eliminating the need for a variance. All these revisions were done to improve the views the neighbor site window view. So in conclusion, the project directive from Scott and Suzanne was not about maximizing views, but is about creating a reasonable home and integrated in the landscape. Setting the building in the landscape versus building up, which could have been an option, preserve coastal and canyon views for the neighborhood. Views from Herald are going to be greatly improved with the removal of the garage and added landscape on that street. We believe that the project blends into the site, minimizes bulk and scale, and view equity is achieved by the proposed design.
Does that conclude your presentation?
That concludes the presentation.
Okay. At this time, any members of the public wish to speak on 514 Poplar Street? If you don't mind, if there's a bunch of you, if there's a few of you, please sit towards the front so we can go one by one. Thank you.
Good evening, board members. Apologize. Thank you again for the opportunity to speak this evening. I'd like to respectfully respond to Mr. and Mrs. Saunders' remarks and offer some clarity on my husband and I's position and ongoing concerns about their amended plans. While we recognize that the Saunders plans are visually pleasing and offers neighborhood benefits, however, we feel that the central issue that we raise has not been resolved fully. The amended plans also do not align with the DRB's prior comments regarding preserving the Catalina and Sunset views. The protection of the Catalina and Sunset views should be a priority. Catalina Island and the sunsets are a rare and valued asset, and maintaining view corridors like this one is part of what preserves the unique character and appeal of our community. We understand that the Saunders amended their plans in response to concerns raised by other neighbors, and we truly appreciate that consideration. However, the revised plans continue to impact our home directly, and that impact has not been mitigated. We are not raising this concern to halt progress or their development, and we still continue to believe that a balanced approach can be achieved. And I thank you again for your time and attention.
Thank you. No? Okay. Next speaker, Mr. Kuratani.
Jessica Gannon. Chair Gannon, that has a familiar ring. And anyway, my name is Steve Kuwaratani, and I'm representing Kathy and Danny. I want to thank the board for either meeting or discussing the project with me. And I want to thank Keith Lee for coming by. I work with Keith frequently, and I believe that he was able to ascertain our continued concerns. I said last time, this is really a stunning project. And I mean it. It's a great looking project. My hat off to the architect. We have one concern, and I'll go over that real quickly. The design articulation, I think the roof line does need to be looked at again. You know, I'm aware they dropped it 6 inches, but it's not the ridge of the roof that's creating the problem. What's creating the problem and creating an issue with the Catalina Island view is the actual eave slope itself. It's higher than what is existing today, and that is exactly what is getting into the view. Next slide. So my images didn't make it, huh, Daniel? Okay, well, there we go on that side. So we believe our one concern, and it's been pretty consistent over 2 hearings, is the fact if you look at the ridge on the left-hand side and on the right-hand side, and then you look at what is being proposed, it is creating a blockage of Catalina Island. And again, it's not the ridge height, it's what is happening with the hip eave coming down. So we would like to have that corrected. You know, I mentioned last time that Chair Gannon had looked up when these homes were built. And the home that Danny and Kathy own was built in 1938. The house that's being proposed to be demolished was built in 1950. And I would like to think that the architects were cooperating at that time to try to preserve that view, that iconic view of Catalina Island and the accompanying sunset. And this is a view that has been enjoyed for over 75 years, even older than myself. So what I'm hoping is that we can continue to work with the Saunders architect, and we can continue to work with Keith Lee, and we can get the project approved next time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Koritani. Any other speakers? No? Okay. You have 3 minutes for a rebuttal.
Sure. Before the clock starts, can you pull up the project booklet, Daniel? Is that okay? And let's just go straight to slide 15, page 15. Just to start, when the neighbor house 528 was listed, there were giant hedges there and they had no view to begin with anyway. So once those hedges were dropped, all of a sudden they say, oh, we got this view. That's one thing. The current ridge is down below the existing ridge. We have a 2 and 12 roof, which is as low a pitch as you can reasonably go with a standing seam roof. If we get that slide up, I can show you. It's on page 15. Yeah, so there's their living room. I stood in this living room as a lot of us did. This is a side view out a side window, basically 10% over to the right. When you stand in this room, most of the view is sweeping across, looking over downtown Main Beach. So we're focused on this 10% thing when we turn to the side and just look right across at the existing ridge shows the sunset, and we've superimposed what our roof's going to do. The top slide on the right is what we originally proposed. The bottom slide on the right is what is our solution, and I think it opens up ocean, sky, light, air, and in fact, I stood right in that furniture, which happens to be facing the TV and not the view, and I looked right over the stakes, I looked right over the flags, I looked over the existing ridge, and I could see Catalina there. So I'm a little concerned about where the photos are taken from. Are we sitting down on the ground? Are we standing? Are we pressed up against the glass? And what's going on there? It's so subjective when we try to make a determination through photos. And so I can just tell from my experience what I experienced there. Go ahead.
I think that sums up where we're at. We've tried to understand where that Catalina view is and where you stand to see Catalina, and we've done a lot of research, and they're very kind to let us come into their home. Unfortunately, when we were there, Catalina wasn't, we couldn't see it, but through our research, we believe that you have to stand in tight left in this corner, kind of up high to see over the existing house. We do realize that we're slightly above that, but you can still stand a little bit higher and still see Catalina in this location.
Does that conclude your comments?
Yes, yeah.
The 30-second buzzer. Oh, you have 30 more seconds. Okay. Any questions for the applicant? Okay, go ahead.
Hi, I noticed when I was out there, there's stakes that sit parallel to the flat roof structure on the north side of the house. They're not connected to the main house, and I saw in your render, it looks like a white wall in your, what do you call it, your packet that you had. And I can't tell
So
why
I
there's,
assume that those stakes are representing the new flat roof that replaced the.
so, but it's not connected. Shouldn't that be connected to the house?
It is.
It is just running underneath
Oh,
the.
they didn't tie them back. Yeah. Drew staked it and they may have come across, but yeah, that corner element is attached to the house.
So that's how far out that section is now coming. Was it coming out that far before, but it was just extended
It was actually 6 feet.
6 feet
further.
in, right? Or further. yeah.
Further, closer to their house.
Originally, we came along with the property line and
Right.
we clipped it back.
So, okay, because I thought I saw in your packet, sorry, I hate when I put a white, looked like a white wall of some sort, but maybe it's just
That is the existing fence.
that's the existing fence. So it's, do you know about how high? That's all below the window, because this one,
You can actually see it in some of the photos from the. So it's the fence that's through the window right now on page 30.
Page 16 of the
Or
book.
yeah, page 16 in the booklet.
okay. I have another question. Oh, the plate heights in the upper level are
We have an 8'6" ceiling.
to the pitch point or just to the floor where it meets?
Flat
Yeah.
roof.
Yeah, flat
Flat roof,
ceiling.
okay.
Yeah.
8.6, okay. That's all, thank you.
Well,
So it was asked, I think the neighbors are asking for a little bit lower. Were you guys able to look into that, or how did you want to address their, I guess, concern? I think in summary, they were trying to talk about 6 inches to a foot lower. How does that work or affect the project?
If we drop it 6 inches, we're below the existing ridge. We'd be creating a house that's even lower than it is now.
would you be considering removing the existing ridge to back to where it is? So where their existing ridge is now, you're pushing further out towards the street. So would you consider moving the proposed ridge back to the existing ridge?
We looked at that, and because the site is a wedge and it's also sloped, it kind of, we'd be moving the whole building back 6 feet. So the building would be going up the slope and getting narrower. And it kind of forces, everything's already tight already. It forces us to do a second level some other place to move the master to an upper level.
You have the entire backyard to develop, to extend. These are questions. Any?
So the
I guess just to finish off the question, if it were to do 6 inches, could it just be graded down 6 inches to accomplish that and the whole program stays the same? Or would you be lowering kind of plate heights or that kind of stuff?
Yes, so that we can lower the building another 6 inches,
Okay.
and we're open to that. I think one consideration is we've already we have a building that has a finished floor height that's 7 feet lower already than the neighbors, and part of that is our whole site's being pushed down, so our backyard is anywhere between 6 to 8 feet lower than existing grade on the neighbors' properties on both sides. So we are creating a situation where we're just pushing them down into a hole. It's not desirable, but it's something that we can do.
Just to clarify, the 6-inch would take the whole roof and the whole upper level down
Including the backyard.
in the backyard. The garage level the garage would stay because of the driveway approach.
Finished floor of the garage would stay the same.
Correct.
Okay.
The right side, where that is, that all comes down, the garage stays.
Would it be possible to lower the garage 10%?
Our driveway slope's already almost, it's like 2% right now. So if we lower it more, we'd be not sloping away from the building. But that's not part of the issue at all. We can move down without impacting the garage because we have ample floor to ceiling height.
Okay. Okay, you want to talk? Yeah, let's go.
So, appreciate the discussion. I think if we can accomplish that 6 inches, I'd be fully supportive of the project this evening. I think going from hearing one to now, you followed the direction that was provided, at least from my standpoint. It was really to work on that corner to open up the concept of that view for them. And by shifting the wall, the exterior wall and adjusting the roof and this potential 6 inches, I think it accomplishes that. It makes a fair dynamic for balancing the view equity, which is a shared view of the two neighbors, and the historical context of the houses next door. I get the sites were built a long time ago, and you guys are trying to make something beautiful happen to what is currently a dilapidated, almost condemned structure. I love the design. I love the work. The articulation's absolutely beautiful. This will be a stunning addition to coming up Poplar Street. As far as the rest of the program, I'm fully supportive of it. I'm supportive of the staff's evaluation, and I can support it this evening with the one modification.
And I too concur with Board Member Weil. Everything is fantastic and you're so close. I don't know if 6 inches, I'd have to see it staked, but there's definitely a Catalina view. And if we're protecting peekaboo views, then a Catalina view is primo, it's optimal. And I understand Mr. Christie's take that when this house, the neighboring house was purchased, it was purchased without that view. But when I look at and evaluate the two properties, the neighbor's property was built first, the applicant's property was built second. And the way that I look at those properties and the way that they're built, it was built in consideration with that view in mind. So I don't know when the hedges were planted and were allowed to exceed to cover the Catalina views. But I know that the neighbor's house has a Catalina view and that needs to be protected. Those are my comments.
Okay, you want to?
Yeah, I'll go. I unfortunately didn't get a chance to go into the neighbor's house. That was my one big regret. We weren't able to connect on that. From what I can gather from the plans and the photos that are provided, which are taken at different angles, and I think it's always tough to not be able to assess from the neighbors and their view, which seems to be one of the challenging points here tonight. From what I can gather from the photos that are provided, I think the accommodations were made by the design team. I think they really put their best foot forward in order to try to accommodate a view, and I appreciate that. I think that I went back and I watched the February 27th hearing. I wasn't on the initial hearing. And I think that they did go above and beyond. They brought the side setback back and they brought the program down substantially. I don't think it's a necessity, in my personal opinion, to drop it even further. I would motion for a direct approval on this.
Okay, I'll finish up. I went and looked at the video as well, just to remember my comments, and I really had no trouble with the height at that time. My big concern was the pointy corner there that was blocking the corridor, not so much the Catalina view, but more of just a breath of ease there. I don't think it's a primary, even though it's a big window, their primary view is out the front. I think if 6 inches makes a difference, I think that would be a nice courtesy to make a concession on behalf, if it doesn't jeopardize the integrity of your home, which doesn't, to me, anything under a foot is like, yeah. So if it feels like it's going to make a difference, and it makes Susan and or Kathy, no, Kathy and Danny, keep calling them wrong name, feel better and gives them a little bit of a relief there. I think I can get behind the project with 6 inches. And, but everything else looks great. Do want to talk landscaping, don't want anything going, no big hedges, and anything that's there has to be maintained below any view, including the corridor view for them, not just off to the right, Catalina, which anyway, that corridor view cannot be obstructed. So whatever's growing in there, I didn't really study, to be honest with you, the details of it. I'm hoping it's all low rising things. I don't think there are any issues with the backyard impeding their backyard view. I believe they're stacked up back there so they could see over anything. So that all seems fine. So I can get behind the project tonight.
I get some.
That one, I've got a couple of marks for the landscape. I did forget that in my notes. There's a couple trees proposed that have some high mature heights, and I just wanted to mark them. One is the loquat, which is in, Daniel, can you pull up the landscape plan? Loquats are in the front. I'd like those not to exceed the eaves of the second level, which is at 108, an elevation of 108. That gives it those plants about 22 feet to grow.
What page are you on?
A111. And then the other is to put a marking on the so the ones up front are the cherry laurels, which can grow to 30 feet. I'd recommend they be capped at about 22 feet or at the lowest, the lowest eave on the second level, which has an elevation of 108. And then the ones in the back in the courtyard area, which is up on the left, Daniel, it's plant number 3, the loquats, which those can get up to 30 feet. And I'd like those not to exceed the gazebo height on the back, which I think I had marked at, what do we have that at?
Gazebo ridge.
Do we have that at 20? The pavilion was 122. Or for those trees not to exceed 25 feet in height. Those were my 2 marks, if that is consistent.
Did you guys agree to the 6-inch reduction in the eave? Just the eave? Not the
whole house. The whole house is going to come, or the
6 inches.
The ridge comes down, everything.
The ridge,
The
yeah.
ridge is gonna
However you want to make that happen, the ridge.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can we make that a condition of approval?
I'm
Yes.
going,
Yeah.
when I make the motion, I'll make that. But if you're good with those landscape things, as you brought that up, that's what I was going to mark.
I'm going to trust you on that because I didn't even
I was
look at
going to
the
make the
landscape.
motion, but I'm
All
going to
right.
let you do
Okay.
it.
I'll
You're
go
not
at
even
this one.
listening to me, but you got it. I know he doesn't even hear me. I talked. to him,
Okay.
so.
Landscaping.
I'll
We'll come back to the tape.
I think I got enough to give you the specifics. All right, so let me roll with this one. Staff report. Okay. On item 5.4 at project location 514 Poplar Street, I move approval and that the board adopts resolution 24-1847, attachment 1, approving design review 24-1847 for a new single-family dwelling, elevated decks, retaining wall spa, water feature, new vehicular access, grading, landscape, and finding said action exempt from California Environmental Quality Act, CEQA, pursuant to section 15303 of the CEQA guidelines, that the project meets the design review criteria, and that we add conditions that the roof line comes down 6 inches. It's basically compressing the building in redesign, like modest redesign to, and that the landscape plan modify plant number 3, the loquat, to not exceed 25 feet in height as a max height. And then the cherry laurels not to exceed 22 feet in height.
Your loquats are number 5.
No, okay, loquats are number 5 and cherry laurels, what,
Or number 9.
number 9? Okay. Number 5 and 9.
Yep.
Other than that, the landscape plan looks clean.
I'm going
And
to.
that that should protect the views as well, kind of coming out the front of the house. And that's what it's saying.
A second.
Sounded good.
You're up. Call the
Oh.
roll.
Do we have a motion for approval? Oh, no.
Was the motion and a
You
second.
made the motion,
I second
seconded
the
by board member.
You're out
I
of
was
practice
talking
by a
louder.
couple
I
weeks.
second the motion.
Mrs. Olson,
Board Member Balta,
Yes.
Board Member Coveney.
Yes.
Board Member Weil,
Yes.
and Chair Pro Tem Gannon.
Yes.
Thank you.
4-0 approval. You guys made it.
Mr. Chair, I just want to make one change on the adjournment. We have a typographical error on the next date. It's not tonight. It's going to be May 8th, our next. So when we do adjourn, it would be to May 8th.
You're the chair now.
Yeah, I'm the chair now. Let me go back here. Yeah, we're done. We are adjourning to May 8th, 2025.
That's right.